The music throughout this video has been enhanced with Monroe sound science. To maximize its ability to expand your consciousness, and for a greater listening experience, we strongly advise the use of headphones. October 29th, 3:09 a.m., 2023. This was the first time I left my body. After getting home from work, I was looking forward to getting a good night's rest. But after giving up my usual routine of nighttime substances, I was having a hard time falling asleep these days. So that night, I decided to give myself a head start with some melatonin. Now, melatonin has really been known to help improve sleep quality and induce a deeper state of sleep. But what I didn't know is that I was also beginning to feel the effects of what is called REM rebound. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and it's the deepest form of sleep. It's where lucid dreams happen. And REM rebound happens when you've been regularly consuming alcohol or cannabis, and the amount of natural REM sleep that your body requires is backed up, like water in a floodgate. Only to be released when you quit consuming for about a week. And throughout this week, the dreams I was having would get increasingly vivid. And my memory of them, subsequently, became stronger. After fighting off the urge to stay awake for about an hour, it was time to lie down.
Three, four.
What the fuck was that? That wasn't a dream. Or at least, it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like surreal. More than real. I remember waking up from a dream, and everything around me was fuzzy and without color. I remember an intense vibration throughout my body, a humming, and the feeling of weightlessness. And I remember lifting slowly, about 3 feet above my bed. And in a second, sheer terror and fright enveloped my body. I've never been this scared. This was different. This somehow was real. My immediate thought was, can I go back? And if so, will it frighten me? I told myself I wouldn't be scared. So the next day I repeated the same process. Got home from work, swallowed the pill, and waited. And there I was again. The grainy reality. The puzzle. I lifted about 4 feet above the bed this time before deciding to turn around, only to see the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. My own body. scrambled to get back into my body like a hand into a discarded, lifeless glove, and my heart was beating out of my chest. The next day, I found myself scanning the internet for similar stories, and to my surprise, the symptoms I described were echoed by hundreds, maybe thousands of people. The fuzziness, the vibration, the lack of color, and they all seemed to be pointing to one thing: the Monroe Institute. I first heard of the Monroe Institute from Major Ed Dames during my investigations into remote viewing.
Bob Monroe wrote the book Journeys Out of Body, specifically trying to convince people that you're more, quote, you're more than your physical self.
And then from Joe McMoneagle.
I had spontaneous out of bodies after my first near-death experience. Department of Defense decided that I should learn to control them. So they found the guy who is best at it, and that was Robert Monroe at the Monroe Institute.
It seemed to be the common thread that bound these two phenomena. So I decided to reach out to the Institute and inquire about attending what they call the Gateway Experience, a week of guided meditation and training, which would apparently allow me to leave my body once again. Robert, or Bob Monroe, was not initially a seeker of extraordinary experiences. He began his career as a successful radio broadcasting executive. But in 1958, something happened that would change his life and the lives of many others forever. Bob Monroe started experiencing spontaneous out-of-body episodes.
As in 1958, then, I had this great, frightening, terrifying change take place in my life. Simply put, at that time, I began to experience moving out of my body. Shortly before this big thing took place in 58, I also began to experience a funny kind of vibration, as if my body were shaking, but there was no feeling of shaking. It was just internal. After 25 or 30 more times of experiencing this vibration, I thought, well, if it's going to kill me, let it kill me. So I waited. And after a while, after about 5 minutes, it faded away. And I was still alive. So I thought, now I know it won't kill me. And on this one famous night, as we're in 1958, as I was waiting for this vibration to end, and as I waited and thought how nice this is going to be, suddenly I felt something bumping against my shoulder, when I discovered that what I was bumping against was the ceiling of my bedroom. Down there in the bed below me was my wife lying in bed, and beside her was a man. Whom would I think of who would be in bed with my wife? And I said, I can't resist finding out. So I moved a little closer, and then this great shock came over me, because the person in bed with my wife was me. And then the fright came, the terror. What am I doing? Am I dying? Let me get back, quick, something. So I went through the air like this, swimming through the air to get back to the body, and pang, got back in the body. That was the first time.
Imagine being fully conscious, yet finding yourself outside your physical body, witnessing the world from a perspective that challenges everything you knew about existence. Well, this was his reality. These experiences were not mere hallucinations or dreams. They were vivid, consistent, and transformative, prompting Monroe to delve deeply into understanding what was happening to him. And this quest led to the foundation of the Monroe Institute in 1971 in Faber, Virginia. The Institute was created as a research education center dedicated to the exploration of human consciousness and the phenomena of altered states, including out-of-body experiences, or OBEs. One of Monroe's significant contributions to this field was the development of hemisync technology, short for hemispheric synchronization. This audio guidance system uses specific sound patterns to synchronize the brain's hemispheres, facilitating the achievement of altered states of consciousness. Now, obviously, this caught the attention of the CIA. They saw potential in these techniques for enhancing cognitive and perceptual abilities, which could be valuable for intelligence operations. And in 1978, they began collaborating with the Monroe Institute as part of Project Center Lane, an initiative focused on the exploration of parapsychological phenomena. If Center Lane rings a bell, it's also where remote viewing got started. Through this collaboration, the CIA and the Monroe Institute worked to refine the gateway process. This series of techniques aimed to expand human consciousness, develop awareness of inner resources, and unlock hidden capabilities of the mind. The work conducted during this period remains a significant part of the Monroe Institute's legacy and continues to influence the field of consciousness studies. Through HemiSync, thousands of people have been able to experience deep meditative states, lucid dreaming, and most importantly, OBEs. This technology represented a breakthrough, offering a practical tool to explore these altered states systematically. Monroe didn't just keep his discoveries to himself. He shared his journey and insights through his writings. His first book, Journeys Out of the Body, published in 1971, detailed his early experiences and theories about OBEs. This was followed by Far Journeys in 1985 and Ultimate Journey in 1994. These works provided a roadmap for those seeking to understand the nature of consciousness and the potential of human experience beyond the physical body. They resonated with many, offering a sense of validation and a framework for their own experiences. The Monroe Institute today continues to be a beacon for those exploring the boundaries of human consciousness. It offers a variety of programs and workshops, not only on OBEs, but also on other related phenomena such as remote viewing, lucid dreaming, and near-death experiences. And it just so happens they were about to open it up to creators. You see, for the first time in history, a select group of people would be allowed full access to the Institute during the Gateway experience. It was time to head back to Virginia.
I've been looking for someone like you, a kind man who's honest and who's true, the kind and who will love me just the way I am. You love me,
I've just arrived at the Monroe Institute. We are currently in or near Nelliesford, Virginia, where I came to meet Joe McMoneagle almost a year ago, actually. And right now I'm in my very own room. So this is the bed. They've got these kind of pods. These are known as check units, or controlled holistic environmental chambers. These units were meant to make you go to sleep quicker and give you a deeper sleeping experience while making you feel more alert and refreshed when you wake up due to the isolation provided by the blackout curtains, sound deadening walls, and as well as the integrated speakers, volume control, and headphones in each unit. Never been on a retreat. This is a first for me. It is kind of counterintuitive to be at a retreat with so much camera gear, but everybody staying here is also filming their experience, and that's what this whole sort of creator retreat is about. We're going to be meeting other creators here during the week, interviewing them, but I'm going to take you through every single part of the process as much as I can, as much as I'm allowed to, and figure out how to leave my body.
Okay, my full name is Arcaides Escarmendi. My nickname is Archie, and what I do mainly is to train Monroe Institute programs for about 17 years now. It wasn't on my radar to be a trainer. I just wanted to be a participant, come here, have the experience. So I had my job, and this was like, something I would do for fun.
Mm-hmm.
But then before I knew, it became biggest part of my life.
You've had out-of-body experiences.
Yes.
Can you talk us through the very first one?
I think I was like 16 at the time, and I was totally oblivious to the concept of out-of-body experiences. And I was reading a book, and I can't even remember which book it was, and it wasn't dedicated to the out-of-body experience, but there was like a tiny paragraph talking about it. And then like a very brief technique on how to do it. And it was just a few words. So there wasn't much of a technique there anyway, but I was fascinated. I was like, is it real? If this is real, I want to try. So I tried and I tried and I tried every night. And all of a sudden, one night, I started feeling this vibration. And it started at my feet, and then started creeping up my feet. And I had heard about the vibrations, like this is, for some people, is the beginning of the out-of-body experience. So I was really excited. But then it sort of reached my midsection, and I freaked out. And I remember my heartbeat went from very, very slow, because I was in a very deep trance, to super fast. And then I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, am I going to have a heart attack now? So then I eventually got used to those vibrations. So I eventually let them take over my whole body. and I knew it was gonna be okay, and my heartbeat was fine, and it was just fear initially. And then eventually it popped out. And I wouldn't go very far. I would just maybe walk a few steps in my room and then look back and see my body laying there in bed. That freaked me out, to be honest. And then eventually I ventured out of the window. And the one thing I remember more distinctly is being in front of the glass, in front of the window, and thinking, I'm gonna do this really, really slowly. And looking at my hand and thinking, can I stick my hand through the glass? And sure enough, I could. And I did it very slowly so I could feel it. And you can actually feel it. The feeling was like there was some slight resistance, but you could still get it through. And then, yeah, I would get out of the window and just fly away. Yeah, over the years, I had them in all colors and shapes. But the one main thing I got from the out-of-body experience is the absolute knowledge that I would transcend physical mortality. And it's such a strong knowing, it's not a belief anymore. You just know, and you cannot go back to not knowing. And being aware of your own immortality, that's huge. That's a huge, huge life changer. Only for that, it's well worth it.
It is now nighttime. We had orientation and got to learn about the program. They're going to play a proprietary frequency in our ears, and this is going to be the first exercise, and it's playing now. So here we go. I'm in my own little pod. In a second, I'm going to turn the lights off, and I'm going to get these headphones on. And this will be my first experience trying to expand my state of awareness. See you guys on the other side. Okay, so that wasn't so much like an out-of-body experience thing that we did, but mostly just they call it a resonant tuning exercise. So they ended up playing this low humming, sort of like home, and you hum along with it. Super relaxing. Like, I gotta admit, like, my head's buzzing right now in a good way. And I'm not normally someone who meditates. God, that scared me. If I don't get anything from this experience at all, I think I'll just be more relaxed. And honestly, I could use that. Day 1. Slept like a baby. It's now 6 a.m. People are going to start getting up. No crazy dreams to report all night long, constantly playing this frequency while you're sleeping. It's kind of nice. It's like a white noise. But then I think around 6:30, there's music, and then there's tuning frequency. After that, morning exercise, breakfast, 9 a.m., the day begins. And I think we start our first real exercise. After the exercise, we all gather together in like this common area, and we're going to debrief. And some of us are more experienced and have had a ton of outer body experiences, apparently. And others, like me, have only maybe had one accidentally. But I don't think that those are going to be filmed. I think one of them is going to be filmed when we all agree to like sort of share something, maybe on day 2 or 3. But for now, it is a pretty personal and private thing. So we're not going to invade anyone's privacy. But here it is. Day 1. This is the yoga room. A beautiful day outside. And for a little while, I was safe. Over here, you got the cabin outside. The one to change you will be. Listen to that. Morning coffee. Sat in the mountains. Listen to that. I've never been on a retreat before. This is a first for me. So when I had my out-of-body experience, it was terrifying. It was a scary, scary moment. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, how that's totally normal. I felt weirdly validated that it's happened to someone else here, and they've also had a similar experience in that when, as soon as they left their body, they got terrified and shot right back into their body, and that's exactly what happened to me. So even that is to me almost like, oh, this happens to other people. This is a real thing that's happening. This isn't just a dream. There's a distinct difference between a lucid dream. I have lucid dreams where I can fly, where I can do whatever I want, and what happened to me that night, or those 2 nights. And I think the main difference is the realization that while I was in it, I felt it was real, and afterwards, I also still felt it was real. Normally a dream, I can discern and differentiate and afterwards be like, yeah, that was a dream. Even the first 5-10 seconds after you wake up from a dream, you still think it's real. And you're like, oh, that might be, oh, is this real? And then you kind of snap out of the haze and you're like, no, that was clearly a dream. But this, to this day, I still think was not a dream. It was more than a dream. It was different. It felt different. I felt this weird vibration. It was just really profound and really different. And to know that I might be able to recreate that moment is a bit scary. But the more I talk to people here, the more I realize that I just have to kind of embrace it and hopefully let it just happen. Over the next few days, we'll be going through a process called entrainment. Entrainment is where one system syncs up with another system. So when we talk about brainwave entrainment, we refer to the way our brainwaves can match the rhythm of an external stimulus like sound or light. One common method for brainwave entrainment is using binaural beats. The Monroe Institute spent decades measuring brainwave frequencies during different states of consciousness. So while you're asleep, while you're focused, while you're dreaming. And by doing this, they were able to identify very specific patterns that your brainwaves go through when in these altered states. Using entrainment and binaural beats, they were able to create this sound technology known as hemispheric synchronization, which allowed them to replicate what the brain waves were doing during these altered states. Here's how binaural beats work. So basically, there are two slightly different tones in each ear. For example, if you listen to 300 hertz in your left ear and 310 hertz in your right ear, your brain will process a third one. The third one is the difference between the two frequencies, which in this case is 10 hertz. Now, normally you could not hear 10 hertz, so your brain actually synthesizes this. This 10 hertz difference creates a beat that your brain starts to follow, and this beat can influence your brain waves, making them align with the beat's frequency. Different frequencies can promote different states of mind, like relaxation, focus, or sleep. And then the brain has two hemispheres, and entrainment helps synchronize their activity. This means that both sides of your brain start to work together more harmoniously, and this synchronization can improve cognitive functions and emotional balance. So by using binaural beats, you can guide your brain into specific states. For example, lower frequencies like 1 to 4 hertz are associated with deep sleep, while higher frequencies like 13 to 30 are linked to alertness and concentration. And every day for the next week, we will be listening to a variety of different sound patterns to activate different states of awareness and consciousness in our brains. But now we're going into our first session. We're going to do, I think, 3 back to back to back. So I'm back in the pod for until lunch doing these sessions. The people I've spoken to here have been just so cool in sharing their own experiences, really inspiring, because you hear about literally people leaving their body and being like, oh, I'm walking through the wall, through the roof, through the floor. And it just really makes me want to have that experience. I'm hoping I get to have it. But yeah, we'll see what comes of it. The first one we end up learning is Focus 10. They refer to this as mind awake, body asleep. In Focus 10, your mind remains fully conscious and alert. You're aware of your surroundings and your thoughts, much like you are when you're awake. While your mind stays awake, your body enters a deeply relaxed state that is almost like sleep. Your muscles relax completely, and you may lose the sensation of your physical body. So the purpose of Focus 10 is to create a state where your consciousness is free from the physical constraints of your body. And this particular state is often used as a starting point for OBEs, deep meditation, and other explorations of consciousness. Okay. That was incredibly relaxing. I was very close to being asleep, and I felt like at one point I was asleep, but then I got jerked back into whatever that state is between sleep and being awake. It was so bizarre because at one point he's counting up to 10. As he's counting, this frequency that he's playing is sort of coming in stronger and stronger. And when that was happening, I felt my entire body vibrating, is the only way I can put it, buzzing. And they told me that buzzing and that vibrating was like right when you're about to let go and leave your body. I started getting subconsciously, I think, excited about that. I was like, oh, it's happening. And that just withdrew me from that feeling. So that feeling only lasted about 5 to 10 seconds, I feel, maybe longer. So I never felt like I left my body, but I did 100% unequivocally feel this vibration throughout my entire body, this buzzing. Everything that I intended to happen on this first exercise happened. By the way, this is the setup here. So we have a volume button here. This is for the music that plays out of these speakers on both sides of the bed. Then we have this switch, which I will turn off. That is the light that tells the control room that I'm ready to receive these frequencies. This is just a light switch for this part of the room, and that's the audio jack for the headphones. So I do feel refreshed. I do feel like I'm in a good mood, stress-free. It is really relaxing. So, all right. We are now debriefed. We went to a room. I felt like I could observe my body from a conscious state without being a part of it. And that kind of scared me. It lasted like 5 seconds. It was very short. And I mentioned that, and they said that's totally normal. And that the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to be with that feeling, and the less your rational brain's going to kick in and try to, shock you back into your system, so to speak. There's different frequencies. They're going to be playing the number 10, which is the same one we just went through.
If you're ready, light, and we will begin shortly.
Okay, I gotta go. All right. No major changes to report, but when we went from the conscious state and then back in, I felt a notable difference in my state of consciousness. I was conscious the whole time, so I didn't pass out, which is great. There was a point I had this intense feeling, this intense tingling in my body, and I felt my body lighter than before, and I felt like I could lift out of my body, like I felt like it was starting to lift out of my body. And, people are saying by Thursday, that's when like the real intense stuff, starts to happen. So we'll see.
My name is Maya Gray. I've been here. Well, first time I came to the Monterey Institute, it was 2012. I came as a participant and I was hooked. And recently, 2 years ago, I became a residential trainer, which means now I can do long programs. I can do them here. I can do them in Europe.
I want to ask you, what was your first experience with an OBE?
Well, I've been having spontaneous ones since I was a child, and I never thought that it's something special. I thought everybody can do that. Until at some point I realized that probably not.
Mm-hmm.
And so it stopped for me then.
Really?
Yes. So there's so many people in here, like they had these amazing experiences and they carried it through life. Like I decided, no, I don't want to be this loony, sensitive person. I want to be rational. I want to be down to earth. I will have things under my control. So I shut it off completely. I became this cynical, sarcastic person. I had a beautiful career. Because that mindset that I adopted, like I'm going to go and get it, that worked.
Yeah.
So I had an amazing career in a multinational company. Like really, I had so many people under me working for me. And I went on vacation. It was in Bali. I was sitting in the most expensive hotel that I could find, like, cocktails and everything. And I was sitting there like, there has to be a different kind of happiness because I did everything they told me. Like I got a job, I have an apartment, I have a huge car, like I have a social life, I can go out, I can travel, I can do all these things that money can buy and more. Why am I not happy then? So at that time, Eat, Pray, Love came up. And since I was in Bali, and that book is part in Bali, the book was all over the place. So I got the book, I read it, and I was like, meditation, that's what I should do. Like, really, I had no idea what meditation is. Like, not a clue. But I thought, I will go meditate and I will show them how to do it. Like, I will be so good at meditation, they will be blown away.
I'm going to be the best meditator.
Yes. And so I went. I went to India, to Osho ashram. So from the moment I landed in India to the time I arrived to the ashram, it was less than 24 hours. In these 24 hours, I was nearly raped, I was robbed, I was cheated, I was taken in circles, like everything happened. And I was like, this place, I'm going home. Like, what is this? But then I got to ashram. There's like a mandatory practice that you have to go to. And I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere. You have to. They push me in there, and it's like 3-hour long process. And I'm in there and I know what is happening. I have no idea rationally. I have never heard of it. I've never read anything about it. Like, I don't know what meditation is, right? But I am there and I know. In India, they have, Osho has a lot of dynamic meditations.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one dynamic meditation, the dynamic meditation. It's 1 hour long and it's physically challenging. So if you try to do that physically, you will fail. The only way to do it is energetically, like as a meditation. And so I am doing that meditation. And there's one place where you're, for 15 minutes, you're standing like this. And I'm standing like this, and suddenly I realize that I'm standing behind myself.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So it only lasted a second, of course, because
Yeah.
What happened? But ever since then, I was really going for that meditation, and that slowly started coming back. And then Monroe happened, and then these experiences, they just came back. But see, that's what they all tell you. It's not a big deal.
Good morning. It is now day 2. Today, by the way, I think we're going to be learning a different focus level. So yesterday was focus level 10, and today we're going to be learning a different frequency, or listening to a different frequency. So yesterday was focus 10, and I look forward to seeing what frequency we're going to be listening to today, and I'll keep you posted. We then moved on to focus 12, which represents a specific state of expanded awareness. In focus 12, your awareness extends beyond your physical body and the immediate environment. You become more aware of your inner self and other aspects of consciousness that are usually outside your normal waking experience. This state allows you to perceive thoughts, emotions, and energies more clearly. You might experience vivid imagery, heightened intuition, or a sense of connection to a larger reality. And like focus 10, your body remains deeply relaxed, but your mind is even more alert and open to new experiences. Focus 12 is also used for activities like creative visualization, problem solving, and inner exploration. During this process, we'll be going to focus 10, which we were at yesterday, to 12, back to 10, back to 12, to notice the contrast between the frequencies and what that does to our subconscious while we are, focusing and meditating. So,
as someone who doesn't regularly meditate, I'm completely floored with how it feels. I always thought, okay, it was meant to relax you, like get you to not think about your problems, but I'm buzzing. I'm literally I feel like every part of me is tingling right now. This one was interesting. I was very easily brought into a meditative state, focus 10, which we did yesterday. But then when it ramped up to focus 12, it was like this thing started playing in my head, like, whoa. And at one point, I don't know what it was, but I saw this flash of like a mandala, kind of an interesting shape. Very bizarre. It is relaxing, but it also feels like somebody slapped a giant tuning fork into my body. We're going to go debrief and then come back here for more sessions. So I'll see you in a second. For this one, apparently Focus 12, and they didn't tell us this before, is meant to really help your creativity And also, if you're looking for answers, it's a great place to go to and ask questions. So they asked us to write down a few open-ended questions to see if we can get some answers back. So both questions that I have here: what do I need to prioritize right now? And number 2, how can I become closer to the answers I seek? So we're about to hop back into focus 12, and I'll see you on the other side, see if I get some answers to these questions. Who knows?
You spent the whole day roaming around in Focus 12. You did a bunch of things, you developed a bunch of tools, and now you're going to have a free flow in Focus 12. And remember, your intention rules your experience. So, we ready? Let's go.
Okay, we're currently headed back. We're going to go do a free session, which is basically we get to do whatever we want during a Focus 12. I got some really great feedback on what was going on with me, because I sincerely felt like there was a truck driving, on the property, like a Mack truck or like a Stampede or something. Like I felt like it wasn't just me shaking. I felt the room was shaking, and then I heard it. And that's what tricked my brain into thinking it was external. It wasn't happening internally. It was a violent sort of shake. It was like I can't shake. There's a gimbal here, so it won't allow me to shake. But it was loud enough to where I noticed it. And I was like, I wonder if that's in the song that I'm listening to, or it turns out that is a precursor to leaving your body, and that will climb up your body. It climbed up about halfway, and then I got freaked out because I think I got excited. I was like, oh my God, it's happening. And then that goes away. So all I'm hoping for is to get to a point where I can exit the body, clearly look around the room, identify something, and then verify it when I wake up. That is the plan. That is my intention. We shall see. It is really hard to come back to reality after that, because you're literally on not out of body, but your consciousness literally feels like it's being flattened and pulled apart. It's such a bizarre feeling, and to come back requires some adjustment. Question number 1 was, what do I need to prioritize right now? Instantly, I received this image of this book, this giant book with golden rays coming off it, and it said learning. I was confused by that. So I said, why? And it was a clear answer: lead by example. As in, if I show others that I'm learning, it will help them to want to learn. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I got, which is pretty cool. Good answer. And the second question was, how can I become closer to the answers I seek? Which is a very vague question. I intentionally made it very vague. Instantly, when I asked this question, I saw myself sitting on this balcony, staring out at nature, just being surrounded by trees and forests and everything. And that's how I can become closer to the answers I seek. And it's interesting because I always turned to looking at trees anytime I felt depressed or anything. And I think maybe I've lost that connection to nature, YouTube and career and all this stuff, that it's telling me, hey, just go outside, go sit down and be surrounded by nature. So also, I got an image of Jordan, who's one of the people here. I kept getting, I'm going to try to find the image. This doesn't make any sense. So it looked like this, like a scoreboard with the word Dallas over it, and 0, and then just a scoreboard. And not even a scoreboard, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was rows, and they all had numbers, and top was Dallas. I don't know what that means. I'm going to ask him about it. It was clear, very clear, like a flash. I was kind of scared by it. And so I'm going to ask him about that, see if that means anything. Keep it posted. Just so we're clear, I had a session. We went to Focus 12, and I just wanted them to hear it from you. And so what was your reaction to me telling you that?
So thank you for, so many times you'll have these kind of things happen and you won't say anything, right? That's what most people do. They're like, I don't want to sound stupid. But then you say it and you're like, and it leads to something. So always say it. But in this case, today is a day where I'm actually thinking about Dallas and sports, because the Dallas Mavericks are playing in the NBA Finals tonight. So I don't know when people will be watching this, but hopefully we win. And this was a premonition of a winning scoreboard. But regardless, I was thinking this morning that, tonight I need to figure out a way to do all the things I need to do here, be completely immersed and focused, but also try to watch some of the Maverick games. So the Dallas Mavericks are playing in the NBA Finals tonight. It's a big game. It's an elimination game. It's on my mind. Normally it wouldn't be. So somehow you journeyed through at least a part of my mental bubble and picked up that part, because that was definitely on my mind.
Well, thank you for confirming that on camera. I do appreciate it. They're not going to think I'm crazy now.
I am Jordan Crowder, and I guess technically what I do is I own a marketing agency. And then when I'm not doing that, I am exploring all the weird and wonderful parts of the universe.
Have you ever had an out-of-body experience?
Yes. So inadvertently, spontaneously during an NDE, I was kind of forced out of my body. I'm guessing at this point through trauma and so much pain that the body was in, the consciousness just kind of says, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and step out. Y'all have fun down there. And I sort of watched it. It seemed like almost like a security camera, like in the corner, like that was like my field of vision of the whole thing. It actually, I left my body when I was in my bed at home, and then my wife took me to the hospital. And so I saw myself in the bed, but I wasn't registering what was going on. And when I was in the car being driven to the hospital, I described it in this book that I wrote, like it felt like my consciousness was like flapping behind me, like a cape in the wind. Like it felt like it was outside the car. It all kind of hit me like after the fact, and I was looking back because when I was in the hospital, I continued that third person perspective. And it just sort of, it never really changed that perspective until finally when they got my body stabilized, and then I kind of came back in, more or less, and then everything went back to this normal, VR headset kind of a point of view here. At the beginning, I felt very scared and alone. And then there was this moment, there's this time, we have a picture of it, where my wife took a picture of us together in the hospital room, and there's this orb, there's this light. And we tried to figure out what the light's from, but it's like shining in really bright from over here, but there's no lights over there and none of the shadows on us or anything. It doesn't make any sense. And it was around that time when she took that picture that I had this crystal clear understanding. I'm sitting in there in ICU. They're telling me that I might die. And I was like, from that point on, I was so calm, and I was like, everything's cool. I'm going to walk out of here tomorrow. We're going to get on to the second part of our life, and we're going to look back on this one day and laugh. And I remember I summoned the main doctor, because all the nurses are basically like, dude, we don't know if you're going to make it out of here. And I was like, let me talk to your boss. And essentially I was able to like schmooze the doctor, and I was like, so it's time for me to go home. And they're like, you're not going home. Like your vitals, like, holy, but I was like, it's okay. I'm going to go home and I'm going to heal and we're going to be fine. But there was some sort of an instant knowing at a certain point in the experience. I had no idea how I was going to do all these things, but I didn't have any fear.
During the time that you were out of body and you're experiencing this and you're watching the car, you're watching yourself in the room, is there ever a moment where you're telling yourself, I'm dead? Or is that even, or are you just confused? Or are you just a passenger watching this? Like, what's that like?
You have your human body and your consciousness, and your consciousness has to insert into your human body to live this physical reality here. And your human body is a conscious sentient being of its own, right? It's autonomous. And that's why you can take the consciousness out. That's why, and it can still perform like a robot. You have your subconscious programming, but your consciousness is running the show. But when your consciousness isn't there, your body's still thinking and you're still connected at all times. It's like roommates sharing a space. My body was scared, when my consciousness wasn't in it. You're scared, you're freaked out, and your anxiety's crazy high. My pulse rate, despite all the drugs and sedatives they gave me, the lady pumping me up said she'd never given a human as many sedatives as she gave me, and they couldn't get my heart rate dropped below 150. But your consciousness is tapped into a higher level of information. And for whatever reason, I guess, knew that wasn't the end.
I hope you guys enjoy those conversations. And how cool was that thing with Jordan with the sort of Dallas vision? I didn't know he was a fan of basketball. Scoreboard thing, I had no idea the Mavericks are in the playoffs. I don't watch basketball. I don't follow it. So he was quite surprised to hear me say it. And I was pretty reluctant to bring it up, and it did make sense. So that is pretty cool. That being said, this session, ladies and gentlemen, is about leaving the body. We're going to be guided through a meditation by Robert Monroe's voice to hopefully leave the body. Just briefly, and then come back in. I mean, I'll let you know how it goes.